What's up, my fellow scruffy looking nerf herders, and welcome to the Carbonite Chat. Today we're going to be doing a little video talking about Vice Admiral Holdo. Now, I know this is a dangerous topic to go on, as this has very much been discussed on both sides, getting political on the feminist thing and all of that. And I want to actually try to stay away from that topic because it's been talked about ad nauseum. I agree with some points, but I want to stick with Star Wars canon as a whole, and this is why I believe that Admiral Holdo was a huge, huge misstep in The Last Jedi. I will comment on one thing that's been talked about before. I do not know who actually wrote it, so I will not say any names on the journal, but whoever wrote this, when it came out, they discussed about, as many people have discussed, about the toxic masculinity of Poe Dameron in this, and that this is an example of, men not being able to follow a female leader, and this is something that needed to be shown. This, I'm going to talk about this because it fits in with what's to come. It makes zero sense as far as canon goes. A story can go where a story goes, but when canon exists and a story exists, events have happened beforehand, you can't just change them. It makes zero sense. You've got Poe Dameron, who you're trying to tell me cannot accept a female leader. He's followed Princess Leia, General Leia, his entire life. The only person he's had above him his entire life is a female. He respects her more than anything. They have a very, very close relationship. Throughout the movie, you even show it where he's sitting next to her and he's worried and freaking out because she can't do anything and she's in a coma state. It just makes zero sense. Now let's go to the rest of the part that doesn't make any sense. Now, I know a lot of people fans shouldn't have to read the novels that come out in canon. This is actually from a comment somebody made in the comments of my video, Why the Last Jedi Sucks. And this is why I'm not going into anything outside of the canon materials, because I had a long rant on it, and even though I believe I stayed with the basis of the movie and didn't just hate on it blindly, but gave direct criticisms to each point, I want to bring up something that those who like the movie and hate the movie can both agree that this was an issue that happened, both with the writing by Rian Johnson and also with the story group, where they failed to make sure that canon lined up from one point to the next point. This is their only job. I don't understand how they didn't do this, but I understand that the novel have to be read. But that doesn't mean that the novels shouldn't have anything to do with the movies. Why? If that's the case, you never should have got rid of the old EU that existed before. If you're telling me that everything's canon and everything lines up, then everything should line up. Now, this is discussing one of the books that came out with the Journey to the Last Jedi, the Princess Leia, Princess of Alderaan novel, written by Christian... what's her name? Claudia Gray. Sorry, I blanked for a sec. Who I think has been the best author in all of Star Wars canon up to this point for the new canon. I know a lot of people will be like Timothy Zahn and stuff, but I believe he's only got one book so far in this one. So she's got three, and all three have been very good. Lost Stars is one of my favorite. But anyways, I won't get into that too much. But in this novel that happens about 4 to 5 years before New Hope, is the story of Princess Leia finding out about what is going on with the rebellion and beginning to help with the rebellion. And this is where she meets Holdo. Now, she meets her in a junior senator thing where they're all kind of being trained up and to become the future senators of the Galactic Senate. And this is where she meets Holdo. Now, my biggest issue is Holdo's character in The Last Jedi and the character in this book make zero sense. Now, I know we just had this stupid excuse, and I will get to the topic of articles written by Joseph Gordon-Levitt where he talks about Luke's different because it's been so many years and people change, and that's just lazy. It's an excuse for bad writing. People don't just wholesale change like this, and if they do, there needs to be an explanation. You can't just tell me, they've changed, accept it. No, there has to be an explanation, and there has not been a good enough explanation for Luke, and there's been zero explanation for why Holdo is different. And also, one of the key things with her character, she's very eccentric. She's very out there. Leia didn't really like her when they first met because she spoke very oddly. She kind of ranted out her thoughts. She spoke in riddles. It was very confusing. She had very outlandish dress, very outlandish hair, which are the only things you see from Last Jedi. So if you're telling me her character is different, why is she still dressed like she was in the books? Because the premise of her dressing like that in the books was to show the second you meet her that she's got this eccentric thing. See, from where she's from, they all dressed in very similar attire, and they had a very structured kind of belief system and were very strict in the way they presented that was in the same way that they dressed. And so she kind of rebelled against this by the way she dressed. She colored her hair, she wore bright clothes, and this all fit in with who her character was. But now in The Last Jedi, her character is more stoic, quiet. She doesn't respond to much. She keeps everything held to the chest. And now in my video about how to fix The Last Jedi, I talked about this could simply be solved with a simple conversation between her and Princess Leia, where Princess Leia says that she thinks that there's someone on board that has, that they believe is a traitor that's telling the First Order where they're, jumping from hyperspace place to hyperspace place. Then it would make sense that she is keeping everything close to her chest. But it doesn't, because that's never said to her. And you may say, oh, well, as some people said, she's the leader. She doesn't have to tell the people below her. But, again, in canon, this is not her character. Her character that we meet in the Leia novel, she's the first to tell you the plan. She's the first to jump into saying stuff. She's wants to get her ideas out. She just vomits ideas, and she just speaks and rants and goes on and speaks in these riddles. And it's one of the things that Leia begins, as they slowly become friends, Leia begins to understand that she's not just crazy, as many people think, because of the way she acts and speaks. You don't watch this and think that she's crazy by watching The Last Jedi. You think she's kind of annoying, or you think she's a feminist hero, one or the other, but that doesn't fit with the character that was set before. Now, the problem is this character is boring. There's nothing to the character. There's no intrigue. There's no, characteristics to her. She has no real personality, which is sad, because in the book she had great personality. She was a very intriguing character. She was an interesting character. She was very much different from any characters that we had really seen. A lot of people, I've not seen the Harry Potter movies, but many people compared her to Luna Lovegood, or I believe Lovegood, Luna Lovegood. If you've seen the Harry Potter movies, you know what I'm talking about. They compared her to her. Now imagine her, and now imagine Vice Admiral Holdo. Is that even close to the same person? Like, it's maybe someone dressed up in a costume like her. Again, I haven't seen them, I don't know, but what I'm saying is the costume was set to part. So they tried to keep something, but they didn't keep any of the rest of the stuff. And the big issue is that Leia was trying to do some of these things for the rebellion in the novel, and Holdo just kind of jumped in, and she was always just ready to jump into action and go, let's go. Oh, who cares? If I die, I die. That's awesome. Let's go. Which is exactly the issue with Poe in this. That the story is telling us that the problem with Poe is he's just a rash, jump into action kind of guy, which Holdo was. So even if she's matured from this, if she is a good leader, then ultimately, shouldn't she have some sympathy for him? Shouldn't there be a little more connection between the two of them? Now, yeah, they try to make it like there's a connection at the end after everything's over, and she's like, oh, I do like him. Just again, it doesn't make any sense. It's a stupid story. But this isn't a hate on the Last Jedi thing. This is a Holdo thing. So that's just one of my big issues that I want to bring up. I don't know how many people have read the book, but if you read the book or read a description or someone talking about Holdo prior to the movie coming out, you're going to hear that she's this eccentric girl, that she jumps into action, that she stalks in riddles, that she's very odd and quirky, that she dresses odd and quirky to match her personality, that Leia is just kind of overwhelmed by how just in your face her personality is, yet that's not here. Why is that the case? That's my biggest issue with the Holdo thing. I'm buying books. I'm reading all of them. I'm studying before this comes. This is a book that's listed as The Journey to the Last Jedi. It specifically says you need to read this because this is going to be important to the Last Jedi, but it wasn't. Like, yeah, Crate was in it, and that was a cool little Easter egg. And to some extent, the Holdo death meant a little bit more to me because I had been with her, following her with the Leia stuff, even though I didn't like Holdo in this movie because I just thought the character was done so terribly as I've been laying out. But it did mean a little bit more because I knew the character a bit more, and so it set a little more depth. Now, again, as I said in my other video, How to Fix Last Jedi, it should have been Admiral Akbar. Yes, many would say it should have been Leia, but she had died by... They had done filming and everything by the time she had died. So, like, she had died, so they couldn't come back and change it. Yeah, and if all things being perfect, you could have known, then you could have changed it around, but they couldn't, so it's unfair to say to Ryan Johnson that that's what he should have done. But anyways, this video is running on long, and I wanted this to be a little bit of a quicker just kind of thought that I had after reading a comment and beginning to respond and thinking this is a video that I want to talk about, because not many people have talked about it in their hate for Holdo or even their love for Holdo. It's kind of a little bit more political, and I wanted to bring it back into the Star Wars topic of this just doesn't fit for canon. What's the point of the books and novels if it's not going to mesh together? And yes, you shouldn't have to read the novels to understand it, but you wouldn't have to... You don't understand anything about why the way she is the way she is. She's just the way she is in this. Which is... but she could have been the odd and quirky, and you would have had a much more interesting character, and you could have had Poe getting in trouble and having to deal with his issues and struggles, and had Holdo be a little bit more sympathetic and trying to understand, showing that she understands a little bit because that's how she was before. And if you didn't want to tell them for plot reasons, then give a reason for why she can't tell him. Say, I'm sorry, we don't have a plan yet, but we're working on it, or something along those lines, instead of just saying, we don't have a plan and I have no reason to tell you, just... Then you could have made her a better character. She would have been more sympathetic to everyone. If someone would have hated on her, then it would have just been, as many people say the hatred is anyway, sexist. It would have been, but that's not the case now. That may be the case in a very small thing, but let's not worry about the very small thing. Let's focus on the importance, and that's why I'm staying off the political side and sitting here and talking about the canon. What's the point? What's the point? Why should I read these books if they're not going to fit in? And why waste such a great character? If Holdo was a minor character in the book, and then you decided, hey, I want to use this and put that here, then that's fine. But she was a very key component of the book. And you were very much so using a lot of stuff in the book, such as Crate and then their connection, but you didn't use her character. Why? Why build good characters with incredible writers like Claudia Gray and then waste them? Just because you wanted it to fit in some plot, because you wanted to create some drama, because ultimately what's going on screen is very boring because all it is two ships just barely moving side by side. So you've got to create some fake drama, and to do so you can't have the character be the character that she's supposed to be, which would have been a lot better for the movie. Those are just my thoughts. Please comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. I'm sure a lot of people are going to comment on some of the more politicized aspects of Holdo. If you do, so be it. We can discuss that down low. But I definitely hope that you take into thought my comments on the canon and that this is becoming an issue. There's been a few times now. You've wiped the old EU, and now you've brought a new canon with the whole concept that everything is going to fit. And there's been a few times now that things just haven't fit, and that's a problem. It's very much a problem, especially when you erased what many people have as the vast majority of their Star Wars love. And you're not bringing that much back into it so far. You've lightly put some characters and some things like Rebels and stuff and hints and notes to it, but nothing of real substance or meaning. And that's a problem, especially if you're not going to keep the canon combined or flowing throughout novels and comics and the movies. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. I'll post some video links to my other playlists or channels from Last Jedi or my Journey of the Wheels, following all the canon from the very beginning leading into episode 9, and also some of my Rebel stuff. I had a trailer reaction and kind of thoughts on that, as well as I've been doing Easter eggs for all of the episodes. I'm going to try to get all of the episodes done with all the Easter eggs and kind of facts and information up until the series finale coming in, I believe, March. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching, and never forget, you Nerf herders, I love you.